As Kate mentioned early on, my name is Stephanie King, and I have the opportunity to be a part of the All-In Campus Democracy Challenge team, supporting campuses across the nation to institutionalize nonpartisan democratic engagement efforts. To get us started, I'd like to share some information that was provided by the Pew Research Center in a report that came out in January 2021 titled Turnout Soared in 2020 as nearly 2/3 of eligible US voters cast ballots for president. According to the Pew Research Center, Americans voted in record numbers in the 2020 presidential election, casting nearly 158.4 million ballots. In taking a closer look, our colleagues at the Center for Information and Research on Civic Learning and Engagement, also known as CIRCLE, found from their examination of 2020 voting data from 41 states that young people aged 18 to 29, of this population, 50% of them turned out to vote in 2020. That's an 11% increase from the 2016 election. As more complete and official data became available in early 2021, the CIRCLE team released state-by-state youth voter turnout estimates by region. One particular point worth noting is that youth voter turnout in Kansas in the age ranges of 18 to 19, as well as 18 to 29, the voter turnout percentage was 45%, a mere 5% below the national average. More specific to the folks that are here, as you heard from Dave just moments ago with the Institute for Democracy in Higher Education, and one of their signature initiatives known as the National Study of Learning, Voting, and Engagement, or NSOL, the NSOL report Democracy Counts 2020 shows that turnout and registration increases and yield for college students in 2020 was extraordinary. To keep this momentum going, you may be asking yourself, what can I do today? How do I support my campus in building on the efforts of the 2020 election into the 2022 midterms? And first and foremost, I think you should mark your calendars. We're less than a year away from the midterm elections. We're exactly 299 days until Election Day in 2022. And while you're in your calendars, I'd encourage you to mark a few more dates down that are important to Kansas. So first is July 12th, which is the primary registration date. Reminder, August 2nd is the actual primary election day. October 18th is the midterm election registration deadline. And then of course, November 8th is election day this year. And if you're thinking, how else can I engage? That's where the All-In Campus Democracy Challenge program comes in. The All-In Campus program, also known as All-In, is a national nonpartisan initiative of the 501c3 Civic Nation that supports and recognizes a network of more than 850 colleges and universities across all 50 states and Washington, D.C. We work with campuses to institutionalize our theory of change, which includes structure, support, and recognition for campuses regarding nonpartisan democratic engagement, which we define as civic learning, political engagement, and student voter participation. And wanting to take a deeper dive into each of our tenets of structure, support, and recognition, we'll start with structure. We ask our campuses to create and implement a nonpartisan democratic engagement action plan every 2 years based on the 9 categories outlined in the Strengthening American Democracy Action Planning Guide and Rubric. In regards to support, while we offer digital engagement tools and opportunities, and of course, one-on-one consulting, our most notable form of support is our communities of practice. We engage cohorts of campuses that work together based on state, city, athletic conference, or institutional type to support nonpartisan democratic engagement year-round. And then in regards to recognition, we have a biannual awards program where individuals and campuses are recognized for outstanding achievements regarding nonpartisan democratic engagement efforts. We also have a program where campuses receive seals of recognition from bronze to diamond for their voter turnout rates based on information provided in the NSOL reports. For a closer examination of our structure and support, here's some information regarding one of our athletic conference voting challenges, the Big 12 Votes program from 2020, which includes 2 Kansas-based institutions. You'll note that the average all-in-campus voter registration rate was at 83.8%, while the Big 12 Community of Practice had an average voter registration rate at 85.8%. Not surprising then is the trend in voting rates over time. All-in campuses that share their data with us tend to have higher voting rates. We're optimistic to continue to see this trend as we engage into the 2022 midterms this year. Lastly, we're also able to show that the structure and support that we provide through the All-In Campus Democracy Challenge, particularly those in community of practice, have greater voting changes, meaning increases in voter turnout over time. And looking at the Big 12 votes data in particular, we saw a 23.6% increase in 2016 and an 18.6% increase in 2020. Outside of the Big 12 Votes program, All In works with a network of 10 institutions in the state of Kansas. If your institution isn't participating in All In, do reach out to join. And then for those 10 campuses that are participating, we'd encourage you to engage with your institution's voting coalition. So for folks that are with us today from the University of Kansas, who's hosting our conversation, I'd encourage you to connect with the Dole Institute of Politics and the University of Kansas Center for Service Learning, as both areas work with the All In program as primary contacts and liaisons to the Big 12 Votes program. For steps you can take immediately to ensure you are vote ready for the 2022 midterms, we'd encourage you to visit allintovote.org to register to vote, verify your registration, to pledge to vote in 2022, and beginning in April this year, you'll be able to use this site to research your ballot, candidates, and issues, as well as your polling location and drop box options. And then lastly, for all of your election needs, I want to be sure you're aware of the National Association of Secretaries of State's continuation of its landmark nonpartisan initiative highlighting state and local election officials as trusted sources for election information, entitled Trusted Info 2022. You can find this resource at nass.org. And with that, I just want to thank you all for your time today. And of course, hope you'll reach out with any questions you may have at allinchallenge@civicnation.org.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And I'll just say, as one of the folks that is one of the major participants in Big 12 from KU for the Votes Challenge, it's been really, really great to have that community of practice where we're able to ask questions and honestly just like vent sometimes about things that are going on our campus. I think we end up doing a good amount of venting, but I think it's very helpful to have that community of folks that are doing similar things across our athletic conference and across the country. So thank you, Stephanie, and the All In team for helping facilitate those conversations. I'll pose the same question to you, Stephanie, that I posed to Dave. And obviously you've worked closely with KU through the Big 12 Challenge and some other things. So what are some things that you would like to see KU do as we prepare for the midterm election based on the information that you've seen and the data that your team has collected?
I think my point would resonate mostly with what Dave said, right? Numbers and reports like the NSOLV report are top line information, and provided outside of context, it's like, oh, your campus is at 60% on the national average. Why haven't you reached 100? But if they don't see your campus picture, it's really hard for that story to not be misleading in different directions. And what we're looking at is culture change, right? So how do you convince every first year student that as a KU student, I'm also a voter. I'm also a part of a community. I'm also a part of something that's bigger than me. So I care about social issues like food insecurity or student loan debt or animal rights, whatever the thing is that feels like KU, like they have to be a part of that conversation. So they need other tools within their toolkit, right? Like, how do you have dialogue across difference? How do you understand how the electorate works? How do you understand how to engage with your representatives? Like, there's so much more than just what numbers tell you. And that's a long time coming to figure out the pulse and context to make change. So if you're starting at this and you're like, oh no, our major of study has like a 5% turnout, like, don't freak out. Like, we need to figure out like, where are those other students and how do we meet them where they are so you can see greater change, and knowing that we're all part of the whole and the sum of the good, whatever reference you want to put in there. Like, can't make a rainbow with two colors. So let's try and figure out like, what does it mean to really build that picture together?
Yeah, that's a really great point. Sarah just posted in the chat about the Dole Institute. So getting involved, if there are any students on the call or any students that will watch this recording, getting involved in the Student Advisory Board is a great way to get engaged with civic action and deliberative dialogue on our campus. Awesome. And I will say, for faculty and staff that are on the call as well, we do have a Civic Engagement Ambassadors program, and I'll drop the link to the chat in there. So if anything that Stephanie and Dave have said so far really resonated with you and you want to work with us on some of these efforts, I will share the link to our ambassador programs if you would like to learn more.